Hello, hello. Welcome as you roll in here. Remember, this is a Zoom webinar, and that means you can chat with us. So go ahead, folks, find your chat button down at the bottom. Oh, and I'm going to do my diligence now. I always do this right now as people are coming in. Attendees can chat with everyone. It's the party line. Go ahead and say hello. Hey, Gerald. Good to see you. Well, good to see your chat bubble. Hey, Jeremy. Good to see you, man. And your chat bubble. Awesome. Well, this will be fun. All right, Chris. Thanks for joining me again here. I enjoy doing these webinars with you. And this one's a fun topic. And I think we had fun with a topic that's actually really cool and really kind of serious, too. And one that I think is uniquely you that we can present. So let's dive in, folks. And please chat questions if you want to jump in on a topic, hear more about something that we're glossing over, hit us up. I'm Craig O'Neill. With me today is Chris Cloutier, CEO of Autoflow. I'm Vice President of Training. Not that that matters, but I do conduct these webinars for you. And hey, we ask a poll every single time we have these. Chris, these are the questions I asked on how we're currently sending notes or gifts and who we're sending them to. And I think that this was not surprising. Were you surprised at all by this?
Surprised about it. No, it just seems about right? We take care of our clients because they give us money, so we reciprocate with them. That's exactly right? That's what reciprocation is, right?
Sure. No, this was a multiple answer thing, and I feel like most of you did multiple answers. The pie chart was a mess when I first made it. I decided pie wasn't what we're having on this pizza and donuts topic, so we went with bars instead. And yeah, a bar is another place you could absolutely reciprocate in a relationship too. So pro tip for you there.
I believe the word's called reciprocity, right?
Yeah.
Reciprocity is you give me something, and then I feel the need to give you something back.
Yes, and this is the reality. So that's what we want to talk about today. And I love that when you brought this up, we were in the midst of this interesting trend in the industry right now. If anyone's on the shop owner groups in Facebook and other social media things, there's this ongoing joke about pizza parties and how horrible they are. And I think what they mean is that it's horrible in terms of a form of compensation other than a monetary. But you used this topic a little different, Chris, and let's talk about this in this order. So reciprocal relationships. I think you summed it up just now, but there's a deeper element to this.
It's a good topic, and you're right, Craig. We've seen a lot of employees be like, I can't believe that my boss is going to abuse me and then buy me pizza and think that's going to make it better. Right. Which I would tell you this: whenever I buy anybody lunch at my shops, or I think when I buy lunch for the Autoflow team if we're out of the booth, I think everybody's appreciative of it. So I guess I don't treat everybody absolutely horrible. I'm sure different days and different times you guys are like, no, yeah, Chris treats you pretty horrible. But I think when you treat people right and then you do something a little extra, people do appreciate it. So yeah, it's not really about donuts, or is it really about donuts and pizza? It's about reciprocal relationships, Craig, that we have outside of that relationship, which is us and the client or us and the employee, right? It's basically another form of marketing that I think a lot of times we just ignore. And we ignore it because we're like, oh, that's just too simple, or that's too easy, or that makes sense. But sometimes the most simple gestures, sometimes the most simple acts that we do, acts of kindness, right, actually do carry a lot of weight to them. Yeah. And so we're going to talk about like how, and this all spanned from the article that was written recently in Motor Magazine and a blog that I posted. And we thought, hey, this would be a good topic to talk about. And how there are other reciprocal relationships that you can have that will benefit you definitely in the long run. I'm going to benefit your shop and driving more car count and driving more awareness in your neighborhood.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because every time I see this topic right now, like we mentioned with the social media, it's like, oh, pizza is a joke or all these other things, but it's a gesture of goodwill. One of the best examples I had in my earlier career, some of our attendees will know Ryan Koeman. He's the director of training at Standard Motor Products. So he's been a good friend in the West Michigan area for a long time. And our shop, and thanks to my brother's skills in the area of diagnostics and technical training, we were invited to basically beta test the webinars or seminars in those days, more specifically, before those were training classes were released. So we would go and give feedback to them, and we would let them know how the class was. But we're also getting trained at the same time, and the compensation for it, a nice dinner spread, which generally was pizza. And it wasn't a sad thing. That was a great thing. And we had a great time getting really high quality training and pizza. So it was great. And that relationship continued over several years. And our guys would drive. It was a good 30, 40-minute drive to go and do that. And it was often on a weeknight when plenty of other things are going on for just about anybody after a long workday, sitting in the balcony of a shop. And it's just minds coming together with a mutual sense of purpose. And I think that hey, the feedback hopefully resulted in some great technical training that we know Standard Motor Products certainly puts out. It was really beautiful.
I think when in the intentionality behind it, Craig, I think
Yes.
it matters a lot, right? And a lot of times, and look, from a Christian heart that I have, like we should give without the expectation of a return.
Sure.
We really should. We should give out of the kindness of our hearts, and for the most part, I think we do. It's funny because let's talk about like the booth, the conference. It's always cracks me up, right? That when at a conference, everybody's got tchotchkes on their table, right? Whether it be a pen or whether it be you name it, anything from a thumb drive to to a piece of candy to. So the whole idea, and this is in another book, is not what would Google do, but it's with a hard Christian reason why they were so effective in airports for the longest time is because they jump in front of somebody, they give them a flower, and then that person feels the need to give back to them, right? Because they were given something, right? And that's the concept that if you walk through a conference and you're that shop owner or you're the technician or you're the, you're walking through a conference, everybody's trying to give you something so they can get your attention, right? So sometimes I think we take, like you said, those intentions as, hold on, are they just trying to manipulate me and give me something because they want something? Or are we truly trying to give and think about the relationships that are give and take, that truly do ebb and flow, and there's intentionality behind those relationships? That's a deeper discussion. We probably going into it today, but something to think about, right? When we do establish relationships, are you just doing it, going through the motions? Or are you actually being intentional about what you're giving and how you're giving?
Well, Caesar gives you bread, right?
There you go.
So you read this book, and I think I'm glad you made the Christian reference here too, because everyone's familiar with WWJD. I think this would be a terrible acronym to put on a bracelet, but this would be the book that you read that brought about this topic here. And hey, this brought on topics really specifically on openness and collaboration seemed to strike on you. And you used the example in the article on Google Maps, very specifically Google Maps. What was your point on that?
We're talking a lot now in technology, APIs and interfacing between multiple systems. I've been in software for a long time, and Google Maps was one of the first applications that I saw where Google did a really smart thing. They said, hey, we have this thing called a map, and what we're going to let you do is embed it in your website. We'll let you embed it in your application. We'll let you. They gave this thing freely to everybody, and they didn't ask anything in return. And in part, everybody started using this map in their websites, and man, it made the world a great place. Here's the one thing it did for Google: they became extremely popular in the mapping game, and then they watched how people use their maps, and then they started buying those companies that were using their maps in very creative ways. So it gave them multiple different business opportunities as well as a lot of data that they got from sharing this with other people. And this kind of mindset of open APIs and us communicating and working together really at the time wasn't as prevalent as it is now. And now, we talk about APIs, everybody knows the acronym API for sure. But just systems working with systems and flawlessly working. So I thought that was like something really genius that Google did. The other concept, right? And that was like, once again, they're giving, but they were receiving at the same time.
Right.
The other thing that really pointed out, and this is kind of the concept of the whole idea of reciprocal relationships, is Google very much thought of themselves as the center of the world. right? They thought of themselves as hey, everybody has a relationship with us, and how does the relationship matter to us in this world, right? If we're the center of the universe, everybody revolves around us. Very egotistical, by the way. And
Yeah.
obviously, Craig, they did WWGB on purpose, right?
Yes.
So if you're the center, how are these other relationships playing into your give and take? Right. And I thought, man, this is a very interesting concept. So what I started doing, Greg, is started mapping not only relationships with clients, that's an easy, right? You know, you fix
Mhm.
their car, they give you donuts.
Yeah.
You give them a free car wash because they spent $8,000, right? What I started looking at was vendors. And I started looking at, okay, well, how does vendors interact with our business? And is there potential for a relationship with vendors? Is there give and takes? And then you notice that the valve lead down the road, oh wow, they just referred brake jobs to you. So they don't do brake jobs. And then this company sends, you know, the tow truck company brought in 3 or 4 cars from you that you didn't really know who they were. And then, hey, this tire shop that all they do is tires, they sent you down check engine lightings. They don't, right? And if you start tracking where these things come from in these relationships, then you can start saying, oh, Craig, hey, you own that Valvoline down the road. You mind if I buy your guys breakfast? Send them some donuts and just say thanks. Hey, we're Golden Rule. We appreciate the fact that you sent them down here. And then those guys eat the donuts. Guess how many people buy them? Other shops buy them donuts. They
Yep.
don't, right? They might get some from a customer every once in a while,
Yep.
but getting it from another shop, right? Is like, wow, this is really cool. Not
Yeah.
only Craig, do they see that as cool? Like, okay, I'm working at a Valvoline. Wow, Golden Rule just bought me a box of donuts. I'm going to send more people. Obviously, when something's going on, I'm going to send more people over that way. But I really do like these Golden Rule guys. And if I do want to become a technician, man, I might go look at that shop because I like the way that they treat the other partners that they have in this industry, right?
Yes.
In our industry, a lot of times it's our vendors who buy us lunch or breakfast. It's the parts company that goes, hey, you guys have done. It's just like us with our clients. You guys just sold $10,000 in parts. Let's get you a free lunch.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not typical that the auto repair shop goes, hey, AutoZone, I appreciate that you sent us 5 customers last week. How about we buy you pizza next week? Because we really appreciate the people that you couldn't troubleshoot in the parking lot. We appreciate you sending them our way to do the diagnostic. So
Yes.
and then they're blown away because they're like, well, hold on, shops never buy us
No,
lunch. It's
this does
always
not
us
happen.
buying them lunch.
Yeah, one of the things that I've become friends with many of the guys who are parts representatives, and we had some really good ones from multiple vendors that came to our shop. And there's a general rule that the vendors have, and it's always show up with one arm longer than the other. And I love it. And it doesn't mean walk around with a clipboard like the picture that I'm showing. It means that in one arm, you are carrying in a gift. And that's the general premise of there. And that's something that vendors do to the shops. Now, how do the shops currently reciprocate on this? And you know, one of my early influencers was Bob Greenwood. I mentioned him probably every webinar. It's probably should have a counter on the screen that goes up and bing, a reference. But Bob had this really simple concept of never beat up your parts vendors on costs, and don't be the guy that's calling up shops to fix your margins by calling up the parts vendors, try to beat them down on their price just because Joe Blow up the street is doing something more than that. It's the responsibility of the shop to be able to sell things at the margins that they require, not the responsibility of the parts company to do that. And it's a major shift in focus for a lot of shop owners that are kind of new to thinking about things that way, because they serve us. They serve us. They serve us. That concept of the mutual beneficiality of a healthier relationship is kind of lost on them. But what happens when you aren't the guy that's beating up your vendor for that lower cost, and you're the guy that says, hey, that's great. This is good. Wonderful. And we appreciate you guys. And you give a gift to these guys. You think you're getting the parts before the other guy in town?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you start looking and evaluating your relationships, Greg, and this is, you know, I have children now, and it's the same, you know, it's the same concept, right? We forget it though. As we get older, we tend to receive, and we think that there maybe not be an ability for us to change the matrix that we live in
Yeah.
and twist the rules however we want to, because we are the ones who receive. When you're a kid, your friends are supposed to be there for you, but when you're a kid, you receive. And explaining to them to reciprocate and to be there for their friend, and then when their friends don't show up for them, right? Like we learn this at a very early age, that the relationship that's a give and take relationship is the kind of relationship we want to be in. When we get into business, depending on where we are in the chain of things, we start just once again taking for granted the relationships, like you said, that well, they're supposed to do that. Parts people are supposed to deliver us our parts. They're supposed to have low margins, and they're supposed to deliver it in a timely fashion, right? We forget that Joe has a family. He's actually a really nice guy. He actually loves auto care. Actually brings his car to Golden Rule Auto Care, right? And he actually is doing a good job. And Joe just recommended, once again, 3 people down to our shop. Well, that's awesome. Like, why are we not like, hey, Joe and your team, dude, once again, here's something. Like, we recognize you for what you've done, and you've gone above and beyond. And food is just a simple way of saying thank you. Sure. In my opinion, I know we joked about this at the beginning. Nobody hates a free lunch. Everybody loves a free lunch. I mean, everybody loves a free breakfast. If you're a technician, you're working at a lube shop, and you're probably young, and you probably rushed in right at the last minute to go punch your time clock. And man, if there's a box of donuts sitting there, dude, you're like, heck yeah, I got breakfast. And I might even have lunch, depending on what I'm making at that lube shop.
Absolutely.
So like you said, parts guys are supposed to deliver to us. They're supposed to buy us the lunches, right? So once again, this concept of putting your shop in the middle, and I suggest everybody on this webinar do this. And with your business, I mean, Jeremy, with your business, how are you interacting with your other vendors? Sometimes, Craig, you're going to absolutely have one-way relationships. There's just not. I mean, there are vendors we deal with that are software vendors that you're never going to get somebody on the phone, and you're just not going to get a hold of the people. And sometimes in auto repair, we're going to send people one way, and it's not going to come back, right? Or we're going to get something from them, and it's a parts vendor that's in another state that they're not going to be able to send us customers. They're not going to be able to refer us people. Like, those relationships are going to happen, and that's okay. Those exist, and that's okay to exist. But how many can we move into that give and take relationship? Craig, another thing, when I started doing this, there were people that were sending, for instance, your favorite top transmission shops. We don't do transmissions. We'll do full replacement on transmissions, but rebuilds we don't do.
Sure.
So when I started looking at all this, we're like, hey, here's a transmission shop, and we send them work, we send them work, and 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 they don't ever send us anything. So then I got to talking to them. I'm like, hey, just send us some auto repair business our way. Oh no, we have somebody that we really like, and we're not going to send you. Okay, interesting. But there's multiple transmission shops in our area, so I started calling around some of the transmission shops. Obviously, one a good reputable one we can work with, and so we found one that we could work well with. It's like, oh, absolutely. I've heard a lot about you guys. I heard you're got a good reputation. Love to do business with you. Oh, we're not asking like you have to send them to us. We're just asking for them to be an option. But if somebody's flatly just taking, how many of those relationships are you sending to a business, and you're trusting that they're doing the right thing? But if they're not sending back, then is there a better relationship you could potentially find that would be more reciprocal and beneficial to your business as a whole?
Yeah, shoot, man. Back in the day when my grandpa was going around town, any general repair shops that sent him work, he would go out and give him $100 bill. Whoever sent it there, you bet that guy was motivated to send another job.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. But there's so when we're running through so many things in our day, Craig, and we're fixated on clients when we should be. We should be fixated on delivering the best experience we can.
Yeah, absolutely.
We spend a lot of money on marketing, digital marketing, SEO, geo targeting. We said so. It's an interesting concept once again, just to take and there you go, creating awareness, right, and the people around you that, hey, are they aware of this relationship? Because that Jiffy Lube doesn't really think about those as a relationship. They're just like, hey, oh, we heard they're really good. But when you start reinforcing that relationship and you start communicating and you build that bond gets stronger and stronger, that relationship gets stronger and stronger, the benefits of that relationship become exponentially better.
Yeah.
Right.
And it isn't even just out of a sense of obligation either. One of the things I did recently, speaking of reciprocation, here, Kim Walker, I was a guest on her podcast. We launched the new Speak Up podcast here on Carmen's Network. So Kim is a colleague now, and we went on to cross promote the different shows. And of course, I get a nice little care package, a cool little gift that she sent, bookmark as well. This fine crafted leather thing was just a nice gift. And when she asked for my address, like, oh, Kim, you don't need to send me anything. Appreciate the opportunity to have a conversation with you. It was fine. She had this wonderful, I think she said it was from her mom. It's like, if I had to do it, I wouldn't want to do it. I thought that was just brilliant because the sense of obligation would remove that element of true desire to just express sincere thanks for that thing. And it's a really kind of a profound thought to take away from this sort of thing. You should do it because you want to.
Absolutely. And once again, the reason why pizza parties, everybody hates them, technicians hate them, because of the insincerity of the pizza party. If you're being driven into the ground and you're being mistreated and mispaid, pizza's just not going to make up for the horrible environment.
Yeah.
But if it's a great environment and you're like, hey man, we really did great yesterday, guys. Like, man, y'all broke a new record at $12,000 for the day, or $20,000 or $25,000. Hey, lunch is on me today. Like, if there's hey, there's a value to what you guys did, and I'm just being sincere and intentional. And absolutely. And it goes back to that reciprocal relationship with these partners that we have. Hey, once again, thanks, Valvoline, Jiffy Lube, for sending us these people, because we recognize you. We saw this. We appreciate it, right? Like, and here's our thanks, right? Because we want to give you thanks, because we genuinely do appreciate it.
Yeah, back to you.
By doing this, Craig, this is one of those things, right, shops can do that's very cheap, right? That actually builds stronger bonds than sometimes that digital marketing text that goes out or goes out to, we're trying to find these sources, and sometimes we're shooting in the dark randomly, blindly. And sometimes we have to do that. And that's okay that we do that. But here's an opportunity, once again, to do this, be very intentional about how businesses coexist together and how they can help each other.
And there's a proportionality to this topic, especially the joke on the pizza parties with the chagrin that comes with that. And like, if your shop just busted a record, like by a margin of ridiculousness, people were working their butts off to make this goal happen for the business, and all they received was pizza. That's part of that problem there. I think that would betray a sense of greed and a poor sense of how valuable the hard effort and people were. And that's where all this controversy, comical controversy, at least for now, comes from. Dave, one other example I had was one of my industry friends, again, Eric Ziegler, trainer. He would come into Grand Rapids at least once or twice a year, usually several times. Him and John Thornton were well-respected trainers that would come into our region. And Eric, I loved it too, because usually we had a good time. He has the right hairstyle, so he would always make a point to come by our shop, and he'd buy pizza for the crew. So the renowned trainer comes into town. We had seen his class the night before. He hangs out a little bit the next day, buys us pizza. Are you kidding? He wouldn't let us buy it for him. It's just this really cool gesture. And what an affirmation of our team, though, as well. Like, okay, cool. We've fostered these friendships. We have this culture where we're promoting training, and the trainers themselves consider us friends enough that they come and break bread with us, even if it's rolled and has pizza sauce.
There's a good book, and I know you and I both read it, and it was from, I forget the trainer who told us, as soon as I tell you, you'd be like, oh, that was Go Giver, The Go Giver. Great book, right? And the whole concept being like, give freely, right? And you don't necessarily you don't care about how it's going to come back to you, right? You can't be concerned about how it's going to come back to you. You give, right? And there's a lot of people in this world that are very good at just giving freely and giving of themselves. I mean, Jesus was a great example. Just giving, right? And sometimes are we? And this is we're talking about reciprocal relationships, and you're like, well, Chris, you're talking about giving freely. The point that you made, I think, is a very valid point. Is Yeah, you're not expecting that Jiffy Lube to send you any more people. You're just saying thank you for the people you did send, right? And you're giving freely, and you're just recognizing, hey, we appreciate this, right? And that's you're Eric Ziegler. Like Eric Ziegler's like, hey, I'm bringing pizza and breaking bread with you. I just appreciate the relationship I have,
Yep.
right? So you can't get mad at the fact that oh, they didn't send us that many more people.
No.
It's a hey, give freely and give intentionally, and be appreciative of what they did send, right?
Yep.
And then in the Go Giver, obviously, there's examples of the universe is listening, right? When you give, you typically get back in sevenfold, right? And that's typically the way it works, right? But you can't give with the heart of I give and I get. It's I give freely, and then the universe, the Lord, is listening, and your favor falls upon you, right? People typically who are very healthy givers and good givers typically live very good lives, right? They're but we're not going to get on that subject. But I like what you're saying, Greg. It's really just the intentionality of giving,
The
just
intentionality.
because it is.
And
Yeah,
this is something that we just talked about in the podcast we did together on the topic of feedback, which is itself a gift and should be received as such, as long as that's the intention of which it was given, and
it's
recognize for what it is.
feedback being a gift. Yes, I mean it is, right? And pushing. And as I have teenage daughters, this conversation is going on often. It's feedback's a gift, right? Like we talked about it this morning. When you receive the gift, you say thank you to whoever gave it, and then you decide later on what's their gone, whether you keep it, throw it away, or regift it, right? Your choice. But when somebody gives you feedback, say thanks. And now, as I say this, and with my team, sometimes they're like, Chris, you don't take feedback very well. You're not listening. And there's a time to give feedback, right? And of course, sometimes it turns into criticism. And when you're arguing with somebody or you're going back and forth, right, it's probably not a conducive environment to feedback at that given point in time, right?
Correct.
Like we talked about in Toastmasters, right? Toastmasters, one of the things in Toastmasters is the whole thing of listening, active listening, and giving feedback. You have multiple roles that give feedback. You have speeches that give feedback, right? It's all about being open to the idea of feedback, because
Correct.
here's an environment where you're accepting it, right? Where you're expecting it and accepting it.
Yeah, a little more challenging than receiving pizza and donuts is receiving feedback from a group of people until you are all in that state of mind together. And that's why we talk about Toastmasters all the time, but that spirit inside of Toastmasters that gets cultivated of mutual development is, for me, it's been a precious part of my last 5 years now. I've been in Toastmasters, and the group of people that continues to go regularly in my home club and our online club that we started. Uh, there's special people in my life that are for me. Like, I'm so glad they're there. The people that were not there, now they are, all based off of this desire to reciprocate on the topic of feedback. And so this is what drove us with Carm and Tracy. We created the Remarkable Results Toastmasters Club. Autoflow is sponsor of that. Remarkable Results Radio, a sponsor of the club. This is a giving piece. This means that the club exists there for anyone to come as a guest, including everyone here, as often as they like, free of charge, and to participate in that, see what that's about, and hopefully join as a member and continue to replicate that culture. I think it's a great thing that we
It
did.
is a great it is a great way it is truly a reciprocal relationship in Toastmasters. It's always a good example. We use it in lots of our different webinars and seminars, because it really is a place where communication gets actively practiced, active listening. And like you said, the whole thing is this reciprocal relationship. We get blinded to who we are. We get blinded because we're looking in the mirror at the same person every day. And when you have somebody or a group of people in a room where you can be a little more free, and they're accepting to what you're giving, it really is a very empowering place to grow and become much more of the kind of person that I think we all want to be, right?
Absolutely.
When it comes to communication improvements and taking and receiving feedback.
Yeah, no, absolutely. For those that want to check it out, you can definitely join us. We meet on the first and the third Thursdays of every month, not on the fifth. This month has a fifth Thursday. But we do meet on the first at 2 p.m. We also meet again on the third Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So that's more of the evening time zone for most of us. But that is something I strongly encourage. And you get to hear from minds like Chris as he gives feedback to other people, as one of the things we talked about recently too, Chris. You give good feedback. You do. And when you get to hear good evaluations in a group setting like that, you realize, oh, that person had all this room for improvement. Boy, I want that kind of evaluation too. That would make me feel real good. And I get to walk away with the lesson that guy just learned as well as he did. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Definitely a good environment for living and receiving people. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. The hardest piece of literally any form of leadership is that specific area. Everybody that I meet, that's the part they challenge, that they are feel challenged the most in order to improve, without a doubt.
Yeah, correct. Without a doubt, Greg. And yes, employee-employer relationship, employee-employee relationship, absolutely. Right. So a lot of times when we give feedback and that type of the reciprocity of giving and the reciprocal nature doesn't always come through because unfortunately there's interpretation and it's not when you give somebody pizza.
Mhm.
Yeah, you can misinterpret that as really all you're giving me is pizza, but it's a gift, right? I mean, it truly is a gift that you're filling your belly with,
Jesus
right?
gives you bread.
If somebody sends you like Kim did a little notebook, like, okay, that's cool. Like it's you could be like, oh my God, I can't believe Kim just sent me this. Like you could be totally like,
I like
wow, not appreciative of
it.
what was given. Feedback is one of those touchy things that people are like, screw you. Why are you giving me, why are you telling me what to do? Why are you giving me advice? And you bring up something good, right? It's a comparison thing that we do often that we feel like we should be the same, we should be designers, right? That we should have the same success with somebody else, we should have the same things as somebody else, we should. Not realizing the 8, 10, 20 years that they spent in feedback, in trying to improve themselves, and actually in reciprocity with other people and other things to build, achieve, and grow. Right. I think, and we talk about this all the time, growth is truly, when you can start really looking and evaluating yourself and listening to what the other people have to say. And sometimes that truth is very hard.
Yeah.
Totally got off subject, Craig.
I think it's all
On
related.
getting, I think it is. You're right. It's all
Yeah.
related in my mind.
Yeah. That's great. So now with this sort of topic, what's the main takeaway you would hope a shop owner does?
Craig, I totally wish that I would have given you my chart of here's golden rule in the middle of the page. And that's what I would suggest anybody listening. Put your company in the middle of the page by a 8.5 by 11 sheet. And then just start putting all your vendor names here. And above the line, Craig, I like to call those the green ones. Those are the ones that are you have a relationship and the arrows go both ways. And then you have this midsection here, and that's your orange. That's like, I gotta send people to them, and they're not sending people back to me because they can't for whatever reason. Like it's a relationship that's one way, and that's okay because you're gonna have those. And then down here, this bottom half is going to be your red area, and those are where you need to go. Can I make these better? There's potential for reciprocity here. Can I move these red ones up into the green ones? Right? Can I? So first, kind of evaluate your business, and then what we do is quarterly. We go in and say, okay, donuts or pizza, donuts or pizza, donuts or pizza, and we go down a list and we target a certain amount of these shops. 5 to 7 is typically a certain number of businesses. 5 to 7 is typically where it lays per shop. And then we go and we buy donuts and pizza for them. And the donuts or pizza might be based off of, hey, they only sent us one person. There's some of that waiting going on. But it might be because donuts are just better because once they get busy in the day, that breakfast is better. So then, and then look at this chart every once in a while, right? Go back once a quarter and say, hey, are these relationships still good? Or did a new relationship come in that I need to be aware of, right? So it doesn't take much time to create, once again, you're in the middle. Up top, here's your green ones. These are two-way relationships. In the middle here, off to your sides, is you have to go one way. And then the bottom, it's like you're going one way. You potentially could find somebody that can reciprocate and give back to you.
Mm-hmm.
Once you identify, then every quarter, every month, put yourself on a pattern, go buy them the pizza, go buy it. And then once again, every quarter, reevaluate those relationships. Are they still good? Did this guy go out of business?
Nice.
It doesn't take long, Craig. I do have my one of my admins that does a lot of this.
Nice.
So, if you have somebody in the shop that's really good with relationships and spreadsheets, or, maybe you do it as an owner. But it's a good way to visualize the relationships, and it's a good way to then put your mind to, okay, oh shoot, you know what? We've been sending a lot of transmission work to this one guy, but we also send transmission work to this other guy. He's really good, and actually, he's sent it to a couple of people, and this guy hasn't. So, and I go have a conversation with the other guy and say, hey, man, like, we'd love to have some of your business. What can we do? And if that guy's like, no, dude, I already have another shop. I'm sending them everything. Sorry. But then you call the other guy. It's like, man, I'll run you guys. I'll send you all everything. Like, that's something to consider.
A
Phone calls,
chart for visualization is a strong suggestion there. Yeah, we should definitely get that chart. We'll try to maybe pop something into some notes here.
Pop it in the notes for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm picturing a rather hand-drawn one. Am I correct?
So mine was hand-drawn at first, but then I've now transitioned it into a drawing on Google Drive to where, you put the little boxes, and it's easy to put the boxes, it's easy to type in the boxes, and it's easy to put the arrows. And then you can color your areas really easily too. You put boxes, whatever, half circles, lots of things over. So I digitized it.
Yeah. And in effect, you've also developed an actual budget for it as a result as well, which probably is fluid.
It is. And the budget, it's a great point to talk about budget, Mike. That also weighs into how many vendors we're going to do, and how many donuts, how many pizza. Like, there's certainly intervals and all. Absolutely. We don't go do steak dinners, right? There's a reason why we don't do steak dinners. Some of them probably deserve steak dinners, but for budgeting purposes, a couple pizzas, those going to cost you $70, right? A couple bucks of donuts with some kolache is going to cost you $30-$40, right? Nothing's cheap anymore. But the results we see, and one more thing, Craig, we do put our business card on there, and we do put a thank you note on it, right? Like, hey, this is from Golden Rule. We appreciate, and I think that's important. Like, they see that it came from you, and you put, and Golden Rule, doing others as that you want done to you, right? So we make sure we talk about that's our vision, that's our mission for what we believe. So we make sure that's on there as well. So once again, because that technician, when he goes to top, is not stealing tax. But because, and we've done this with other auto repair shops too. But like, oil change places are a good place for young men who want to eventually become technicians. And once they get done of oil changes and rotating tires and flushes, they start looking for a shop to go work at. So if you could plant the seed, that doesn't hurt.
Yeah. No, I believe Jeremy's son's doing something like that right now too. And so, Chris, this got me thinking I could easily go into a rant on CRM approaches on things. I shared with you the birthday text that I received from my dentist and my eye doctor, identical. They were clearly using the same program, totally unrelated businesses, exact verbatim, exactly the same message. And I replied to one of them, the thank you, and it repeated the message again. It wasn't a genuine, hey, happy birthday type of a thing. It was an automated, systematic piece. So avoiding it becoming systematic and automated seems to be one of the strengths I hear of your process. Is actually quite deliberate. It's analyzed it with real human minds.
and Craig, look, I mean, if you have 20 shops, 25 shops, then totally. But if you got 1, 2 shops, you got a couple shops, like, this is something that, I mean, we're about relationship. We say this all the time. We're a relationship business. We create relationships with our clients all the time. Yep. What are we doing with other vendors? What are we doing with other shops in our area? Like, are we worried about them taking our business, or are there relationships? Once again, we don't do tires at Golden Rule. We don't. So we have one tire shop at each location that we work with, and love buying them like lunches and breakfasts and stuff like love it. And the guys really appreciate it. And they love sending us down brake jobs, and they love sending us, check engine lights. And
Yeah.
when a customer says, "Hey, I got this," they're like, "Hey, go down and go and roll." They're really great. So it's a really good relationship that we've built over the
Yeah.
years with both tire shops.
No, I still think you should do tires there, but I think that's a great approach to the scenario. That's really, really well done. Nice. No, this is good, Chris. Now, I could go other directions on this, but we'd go way off into the weeds with the time that we have here. But no, I think that when it comes to the software company with Autoflow, I think one of the things that, and we did this for this webinar too, and not just as a joke, folks, those of you that registered, I'm absolutely going to go through that list of attendees and we're going to send you whichever one you selected of pizza or donuts. And if you didn't have that option because I added that option later and you registered, I will find out for you which one you do if you win. But that's one of the things that I really have appreciated about my role here is we don't charge our clients for the time with us for the training and the consultations that we do. And that was an early on investment that you decided to make. And it's almost 8 years now that this has been my role here. And at the beginning of it, it was like, all right, that's primarily to help with onboarding. But we haven't changed that. We haven't changed it at all. Like the premium of my time, we still allow that to be spent with clients who just need a hand and they can schedule time with me and we go in and we help out. That to me is an absolute a genuine like self-serving. Yes, in one way, you get good at the program, you stay on the program.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But there's other vendors, Greg, that
Yeah.
we partner with. That there's absolute reciprocal relationships and software. It's everything from trading leads, right? And that happens all
Yep.
the time, right? We trade leads with other people. Look, we've broke bread. I've broke bread with multiple vendors, whether I've paid or they've paid. Like I'm in their area, they're in our area. Like there's a lot of I think give and take in the software space where
Yeah.
a lot of vendors we do. And you've been to the trade shows, Craig. Like we're friends with pretty much every vendor out there. Like
Yeah. Oh, so and
I
so. Oh, they're
bought lunch
great.
for I bought lunch for pretty much not every salesperson at every other company, but I certainly make friends with all of them. And I certainly I take the time to know their name. I take the time to say hi to them.
Yeah.
Because it's advantageous for me, right? Not just me being a good human being. I like being a good human being. But they're like, wow, if I ever left, like this Chris guy's a really nice guy. And I'll never, and you know this, I don't steal from other companies.
Yeah.
I absolutely will not steal employees from other companies. But certainly if they leave and then they're like, man, I really do like this company. Like it serves its purpose. And well, I'm a nice, I am truly, I genuinely like to buy other people lunch and be nice to them. But yeah, the relationships we look at all the time with the software company are we sending them leads what they send us leads? And I don't think it's a shocker for
Yeah.
anybody out there in the audience. Like if any of y'all is like, hey, what's a great shop management system? We've got an answer. Hey, what's a
Mhm.
great we have an answer. We
Based on
typically
their
our
circumstances
people
and needs. Yeah.
based on their
Perfect. Yep.
circumstances.
Yep.
We absolutely. If you need a training company, we've been asked what are really good training companies. We've given like we do. We give answers because a lot of times, when people build trust in a vendor or somebody like you, Brett, right? They trust you. They trust that you really have honed in on their process, that you really help them improve their business. They naturally are going to come to you and say, "Hey, Craig, like, what's a good place to go? Where's a good place for me to get this?" And you're like, "Here's some." But you think about some of the really great relationships we have with our vendors, our partners. We do,
Oh, that's wonderful.
we sponsor them. Like we go to their events. Like there's lots of ways that
Yeah.
we actually
I think people
work with
forget,
other vendors.
like it's a very small industry. In the vendor show floor, you spend a year or two as a vendor and hit most of the shows. You know a lot of the same people, and they float around sometimes from company to company, and that's really not that different in your local regions or states, cities, towns, whatever. Parts guys in particular, my grandpa and my dad both always taught our team, you treat those parts delivery drivers with the utmost respect every time they come in, every time why? They go everywhere and they get to know everybody. And there's a gossip mill that goes around in that realm too. And so they're just like anything, like your reputation can be made or broken by one poor interaction. and you could work so hard to build it all up and then ruin it in one angry moment when the parts was here late and you're like, oh, what took you so long? And make them feel bad, even though you don't know what they went through. I'd treat him with respect, and I loved it because we had a World War II veteran. I remember him very well. I talked about this in a recent episode with one of my friends from Toastmasters on the podcast, and he was a wonderful man. He got to know him over years. He would bring us the transmission parts, and just eventually opened up, told stories to me. I mean, he told us stories about being third wave on D-Day. He was in the Battle of the Bulge, stories he hadn't told publicly to anybody. I'm getting in conversation with this guy. He became a dear friend in the shop and the family. And what do you think he did when one day his transmission failed? Yeah, he brought it straight to our shop, and that was the one customer we let, by the way, provide their own parts. He was
Sure.
a
Created a very good reciprocal relationship, obviously, and it paid off for you.
Absolutely.
So you're absolutely right, Greg. Treat, and this goes back to intentionality of, once again, what just going to buy you pizza because it just, hey, you guys need pizza. I think that there's a lot of books that talk about this, and it's about praising employees and making sure that you praise them when they do right, and make sure it's publicly praised and praised often. Right. So here's the other side of that, though. It's depending on relationship with vendors, depending on relationship with employees, you're going to make a mistake. Like you are, you're going to say something that came out wrong. You're going to do something that comes out wrong. It's absolutely without a doubt. The one thing I know about the human experience is it is messy, and your intentions can be the best they are, but it's going to get messy. But we should always do our best, as you said too. Yeah, we should try and put our best foot forward and treat everybody with respect, and obviously like create those relationships that that are beneficial to both sides, right?
Beneficial both sides. Yeah,
especially both sides. As when you talk about employees and stuff like that, Craig, I don't, and there's probably not one person on here that enjoys firing people. Like firing people is the hardest thing you will ever do, as far as I'm concerned, as a business owner. Like it's horrendous, right? Because here you have created this reciprocal relationship with this person. You pay them money, they do work. You set expectations, you pay money, they do work. But at some point in time, this relationship goes sour or south, or they think that, hey, they're not getting paid enough, or they think the job's unreasonable, or whatever, right? And then you've got to let them go, right? You're still a good person, right? It's just that sometimes our actions just, hey, it has to be done. So with the best intentions, being kind to other people, knowing that, hey, as business owners, there's still going to be some things that even that best parts guy that you had a relationship with, it could go sour, and or even a relationship with that transmission shop, Craig, that you're sending everybody over to, and then something goes wrong with the customer, and then that customer gets super upset with them,
you
and
told me they were good.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yep. So sometimes these relationships, once again, they need to be trained, changed out, or changed. It happens in life all the time. We don't have our best friend from day one till the day. Some people do. Some people are blessed like that, but some of us aren't. So great points.
No, Chris, I appreciate the topic, and you had this topic on your mind and heart for the last a little while here. So I'm glad we got this in to discuss it. I think it's beneficial. Hopefully everyone found something beneficial. And I love that Jeremy out of the gate inspired, even just by the registering for this webinar, to go and send a gift basket to a vendor client this week. That's great.
That's awesome. Yep. And, it'll change your life. Let's go. Yeah, let's go. Let's start mapping these relationships. Are they good relationships? Are they bad relationships? And let's change them if they're bad. Yeah, as my kids start dating, I'm going to make sure that, hey, is this boy, is this a give and take, or is he just taking? Because if he's taking, we need to cut that out and find something.
Has this started happening yet, Chris? Not yet, right?
Not yet. Oh, not yet. I'm close, though. I know it's happening, Greg.
Yeah.
It's on its way.
No, I know it's close now. I'm dreading it and looking forward to it and dreading it.
Yeah, absolutely. Without question.
Yeah, our daughters are the same age. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, thank you so much, Chris. You guys know how to get a hold of us. Thank you so much for attending. And please keep checking back here. We'll have new interesting topics, some on the product, some on just topics of passion for us. And hey, thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks, Chris.